So one of the reasons why we're doing the rear diff bushings today, so obviously deflection is always going to hurt you. The rear diff has the ability right now to deflect in various manners. So what this does is going to hold it steady so that powertrain, the drive shaft itself, that mates to the rear differential, instead of it bowing and flexing, it's going to hold more constant. Which in theory, I guess, gives us more power to the rear wheels at a constant rate. I'll go with you. That sounds scientific and it sounds good. So we'll roll with that. So overall, it's also going to not allow for clunks and other weird things that happens on this car and various other cars.
Misshifting as well.
Yeah, and it also can do various things where it hurts us, like misshifting. So it's going to give you a more firm feel and better drivability, especially when at the track, which that's what this car is for. To the track, drive home, drive around. That's what it's all about, having a well-rounded car. So, all right, we're going to get to it. Have some fun. All right, so what we're going to be looking at today is the Whiteline suspension. These are the rear diff bushings for the Mazda Miata. Basically, comes in this nice little box, nice little bagged up. You have a bushing for each side of the diff, and you end up with some other pieces. We're going to open this up and show you some more. Also comes with handy instructions so you can actually understand what the heck you're going to be doing. So this is actually pretty simple. You have for each side, you have this set up here, here and here. You have this which slides up into the diff, and this caps it off, and then this goes in between. So this bushing kit is actually used for any NA or NB Miata and can go into any NA or NB or 1.6 or 1.8 liter rear differential. We're going to show you today, it's actually going to be on a 1.8 rear diff. So you can remove this bolt here. This releases the rear suspension so you can actually pull the axle out from the differential. Once you have this pulled out, give it a little shake and then you're going to pry the axle out of the differential. So another thing to remember is you got to pull the drive shaft off of the rear differential, obviously, which is really easy, just a couple bolts, quick and easy. Pull those off and you're good to go. So as you can see here, the axle is now able to be free a little bit. They're actually going to end up removing the bolt up here so we can lower the rear differential so we can actually not ruin the seal. On an NA Miata, the axles actually have a bolt. They actually bolt right in here, which would then allow you the ability to unbolt the axle from the rear diff. So this actually can drop out a lot easier on an NA Miata. These here would actually hold the rear diff up. There's 3 bolts that you have to remove. And then from there, the rear diff, once you remove both on either side, then you can lower the rear diff down. Now we're lowering the rear diff.
So you're able to push this one more in on this side. That one is free. And that one. And your diff is free.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to drill out these bushings. So basically all we're going to do is drill out the rubber. Once we get the center section out, then it allows us to use a Sawzall to chop this out so you can actually press the metal ring that's around there out of there. There we go. Boom. So So basically we just pulled this out, which is the centerpiece for the rear diff. We used a hole saw to do it, which worked pretty well. It kind of grabs kind of hard.
Used this to finish up the job.
Yeah. So now what we're gonna do is Ryan's going to grab the Sawzall, and as you can see here, so now you still have the metal ring that actually surrounds the actual rear diff housing. So now we have to cut into that to release that ring, and then we'll end up using a punch and hammering that out. And what that's gonna allow us to do is actually get this, the major piece of the bushing, to slide into there. As you can see, it's basically that same diameter.
If you had a press, this would be a whole lot easier, but most people don't have presses.
Yeah, to do in your garage, this is the easiest and best way possible. If you had a press, you just press this baby out real quick. You can also, as per the instructions, you can actually use a puller press type style thing that you generally can get at like AutoZone or something like that. We don't have one, so we're doing it kind of the way that most people do it. Now, remember, when you're cutting this out using this method, be careful not to cut into the actual aluminum housing. Then you're gonna weaken it, obviously. So you're just cutting just enough to cut through it. So you can see the metal's now folding over from where Ryan cut it. And basically we're able to... So now you can see it's starting to drop. So now this is going through. So we're just gonna keep beating the death out of it until it comes out. Boom. So now we got our first chunk, which means this other piece should come out pretty much with ease. And now we end up with our hole to which this will sit in. The next step is we actually have to, this is off of the car, it's stock. They actually have these ribs so it can bite onto this in this manner, and then these press against that, basically so that it doesn't cause too much vibration and noise and all that jazz. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna cut all these off. Some guys actually bake them, some use heat, all sorts of different manners of ways of getting this off of there. But all we're gonna do is we're gonna use a Sawzall and run it across here, smooth this out as best we can, and then this piece here is gonna sit right there.
So this is what I just did. Took off all the ribs. This piece here is going to mate here. And then it's going to go right here.
Now all we have to do is we have to get our bushings from Whiteline, and we have to get them in to our new housing. So Whiteline doesn't include any grease, but in general you don't really need a lot of grease. It's just a matter of putting a little bit on the inside of here, and that just helps the initial bushing install. As you push it into here, you can do it just by forcing, obviously. It does go, but it actually helps a lot to put a little grease inside there. It makes it a little bit easier. So now Ryan's gonna slide it into position. Obviously you see we put a little grease on there to make it a little bit easier on our lives. So I'm gonna push it into there. And just make sure you get that nice and flush. Either which way, when you put it in the car and bolt it in, it's gonna get flush. This is just a metal sleeve, and the metal sleeve is meant to make it so that when you put the bolt in, it actually can't crush into the actual polyurethane. So as you slide this into there, which we'll add a little bit of grease to make it a little bit easier as well. The grease will also help generally moving parts back and forth. It'll help to make it so it doesn't squeak or anything like that. In general, obviously this is a diff, so the moving parts factor is kind of minimalized, but it does help a little bit. Last piece here, which that's why we cut this in various ways, Now this sits up into there, which is going to actually hold this up into the car. So now, almost upside down, but close. So that's essentially how that will sit. And you can see there, the little metal piece actually holds that into place. Little magic trick. So now, all we gotta do is get back under the car, push this up into place, slide the axles back in, bolt it all in, you're good to go.
Start going off. Go. Push it over there. Keep going. There. Keep going. Solid. Alright. Now we'll be installing the bushings. Our backing plate.
And that's our video on how to install a set of Whiteline bushings on an NA or NB Miata.